Hold up, why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step. I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bet.
Welcome back, y'all. This is the Double M Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jesus Dinero, here with my co-host,
Puma El Gato.
And before we get into tonight's topic, guys, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share the video. It means everything to us small creators. And with that, what do we got going on tonight, my man?
Alex Pereira, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Who is higher on the GOAT tier list? Let's talk about it.
So, I'm actually part of a bunch of different pages, both on UFC and MMA Matters and Boxing. And I saw this. I'm going to throw it up on the screen. A question asked by a couple of different people, and a lot of people were commenting on it. So I figured we'd talk about it. Who is higher on the GOAT tier list? Khabib, which phenomenal work, and ended his career 29-0, undefeated. Or Poatan, put in a lot of work, obviously a lot of great names. Obviously, he just recently won his fight up against Ankalaev. So, given people ask the question, we figured we'd talk about it. Listen, we actually had a very recent discussion, kind of similar to this, in relation to comparisons between Floyd Mayweather and Terence Crawford, because people were asking, after Terence Crawford beats Canelo Alvarez, who's the better fighter? A lot of similarities in that. So, it comes down to this. What do you personally throw this is a better thing to measure it on? For example, some people say, hey, the fact that Khabib is undefeated, hey, that by itself says a lot. Okay, that's a fair argument to make. Some people say, hey, the fact that Alex Pereira has had the title 3 different times, champion in 2 different divisions, such and such, stuff like that, 2 different divisions in kickboxing as well, things like that. They say those are the reasons why. And listen, I'm going to give you guys my take on this. The only reason that I have Alex Pereira above Khabib Nurmagomedov is simply because the fact that this man, accolade-wise, has more accolades. If you look at the entirety of Khabib's career in the UFC, 13 total fights, he has a lot of great names on there. Absolutely does. Alex Pereira has 12 fights, and I personally feel like, again, 2 different divisions, champion 3 different times. And I feel like because of those types of things and all the names that Alex Pereira has, which I personally believe is more than Khabib, I personally have Alex Pereira higher up on the tier list. Now, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for Khabib. He was able to shut Conor up. He was able to respectfully put Justin Gaethje out in his retirement fight and this is Khabib's own word, he didn't want to break the arm of Justin Gaethje. Things like that are things that, for me personally, elevate Khabib as a person, as an individual, as a fighter. Because if you can choose how you're going to put your opponent out because you want to be respectful, like you're choosing, you're not manipulating the fight, but you're in control that you can choose how to put him out. I think that shows a lot about the type of fighter you are, the type of control you have in the ring, all that good stuff. That being said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. Personally, I'm going to go by the accolades that Alex Pereira has. Better fights under his resume, less fights under his resume in the UFC than Khabib, more titles, more title defenses, all that good stuff. I personally feel like because of those things, Alex Pereira is higher up on the tier list. Now, I know Khabib was undefeated. He got the title, never lost it, whereas Alex Pereira did lose it. But if you look at the caliber of individuals that Alex Pereira lost his fights to, top tier talent. So I can't fault him for that. It's not like, Alex Pereira was taking some time off to face some nobodies. No, man, he was facing top of the division individuals, and every time he got his get back. So all those aside, all the names, the beautiful knockouts, the spectacular ways, fighting so many times just in 1 year. I believe it was 4 times in 1 year, which now only Merab has emulated. All those things like that, I think that's the reason why, personally, I have Alex Pereira higher up on the tier list. The spectacular way that he's been able to put people out, the spectacular way he's been able to win titles, the same way that Khabib has a diehard following, Alex Pereira proved that at his fight with Ankalaev. Ankalaev said no more trauma. All Alex Pereira said trauma, and the crowd went wild. So I think all of these things put together, the cult of personality that both these dudes has, the accolades, all these different things, I believe in overall, Alex Pereira is higher up on the tier list for money-wise, for accolades, titles won, divisions in which he won titles, the fighters under his belt that he's beat. all of these things combined, I feel like have made Alex Pereira higher up on the GOAT tier list. And don't get me wrong, a lot of respect for Khabib. I'm not by any means dismissing all the things that he's done. Again, retired undefeated, dominates so aggressively that he can choose how he wants to put you out. I don't believe there was very many rounds where anyone could make an argument that Khabib lost in his entire fight career. Maybe one or two here and there, but that's the entirety of it. So all those things put together, man, Khabib makes Khabib a phenomenal fighter. But I personally believe Alex Pereira is higher up on the tier simply for the accolades. What do you think about that, my man?
You know, it's funny that you referenced the Terrence Crawford and the Mayweather conversation, because I feel like we were both kind of split on that, in which you were favoring Mayweather and I was favoring Terrence Crawford. And it looked like for two different reasons. For one, in the same way that you talked about Mayweather dominating the GOAT conversation purely for his resume, which I do feel in that conversation Terrence Crawford was a little lacking. I'm gonna have to say Khabib. And again, we're talking about if it's strictly fighter resume, then I do think yes, Alex Pereira does not even eke him out. He blows him out of the water purely because again, Khabib dominated at the top of his fort and then just decided to cash in all of his chips and then walk out. And again, he had principal reasons for doing that. No credit to or no fault to him for that. But at the same time, you kind of lock yourself out of more competition, more record notoriety, purely for that reason, in which Alex Pereira is going to knock him out of the water purely by continuing to fight as the years go on. But I do think, and I'm going to give credit to both of these people. Both of them were respective boogeymen for people that were dominating their weight division. Again, Israel Adesanya was dominating the middleweight division in the same way that Conor McGregor was dominating the lightweight division. And both of these men dominated their respective opponents. Alex Pereira, again, beat Israel Adesanya pretty convincingly. And if you want to bring in his kickboxing records, he's 3-1 against them. In the same way that Khabib knocked Conor McGregor right out of the water, beating him at his own game, and again dictating the fight how he wanted to. And again, this was top of the line Conor McGregor. This was prime Conor McGregor. He was dominating two divisions, and Khabib made him look like an absolute bitch in that fight. But again, purely on fight resume, Alex Pereira actually has more than Khabib. I'm not going to debate that. I will, however, say if we're talking a different kind of legacy, I do think Khabib kind of ekes him out in that regard, because you got to think with the undefeated record, the caliber of opponents, and again, not knocking any of the caliber of opponents that Alex Pereira had, but strictly as a fighter, Khabib doesn't look that great. However, you also have to remember, Khabib is also a coach. He's also a mentor. And who is he mentoring right now that's probably in the conversation for one of the great, or at least leading in to be one of the greatest of all time, is Islam Makhachev. It is literal GOAT training another GOAT. And we always talk about how coaches already should have their own Hall of Fame, or at least in UFC they should have their own Hall of Fame. But if we're talking about in boxing, they have their own Hall of Fame. Why shouldn't that be the same for UFC? And again, if we're going to be talking about legacy, what better legacy is there to leave in the MMA world than if you're already the best in your the best in your division, a champion in your division? What better way to leave a legacy than to already make an all-new champion in that regard? There is the saying that those who can do and those who can't teach. Well, guess what? Khabib is proof that you can do and you can teach. So I do think as a lasting legacy, I do think Khabib has a better one than Alex Pereira. And that's why personally for me, I do think Khabib is higher than Alex Pereira in my regard. But what do you think about my feelings on that?
Listen, man, that's a fair point to make. Khabib is absolutely training someone that's definitely going to go on the GOAT, in the GOAT conversation at some point. Absolutely. No arguments there. But does that make Khabib an elite fighter? And that's a big difference. Again, I do think that Khabib is an elite fighter, phenomenal fighter, great at what he does, dominating. But again, I'm going to use the accolades. I personally believe that Alex Pereira just has more accolades, more names, more fights per year. And again, right now, you can't argue that the man doesn't have a cult personality. All of these things combined. is what makes me believe that Alex Pereira is higher up on the GOAT tier list. Listen, this was a conversation I found online. I thought it was an interesting one. I thought people were making some good points. So I thought, you know what? Why not throw my opinion out there? So I thought, I'd bring it up to my brother here, see how we got about it. But listen, tell us what y'all feel. Who do y'all feel is a higher up on the GOAT tier list? Is it Khabib retiring undefeated, or is it Alex Pereira? Multiple divisions, multiple championships, and all the names, all that good stuff. You guys tell us why you believe that your chosen fighter is the tier, higher up on the tier list on the GOAT conversation. And hey, man, we'll have some fun with it. And with that, make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and
Until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you on the next one.